Yeah. Sorry I burped. But I wanted it to feel even more like, oh, put that on a t-shirt. Fuck me, what is wrong? That's weird to say, I think. Some songs to me just feel exactly like their lyrics, and the song that I produced, Lovers Do by 𝐤𝐮𝐬𝐽, is one of those songs for me. And the song is about wanting to find your person, feeling what the lovers do, and that longing is perfectly captured in the production. And 𝐤𝐮𝐬𝐽 actually came from South Dakota to record these vocals in person to make sure we could get them exactly right. And I'm so glad she did because they sound so good. So watch to the end so you can hear some of her isolated vocal layers. But let's go to the computer and talk about how we made the song. The foundational element in this song is acoustic guitars. I wanted them to feel very vintage and nostalgic. So what I did is I used RC20 to create some distortion and get rid of some high end and just make them feel like a vibe. Make them feel like a 1960s vibe. 1960s? 1950s? I don't know. So that's kind of our foundation, our base layer, if you will, that runs throughout a majority of the song. And then we just use other acoustic guitar layers to kind of add some more interest. So, for example, in the first verse, we introduce this secondary part that complements that main guitar. So it's doing the same rhythm, just a slightly different melody. And then when we layer it in with the main guitar, and that's something we pull into, you can see in verse 2, just to kind of create some distinction between verse 1, which is just the bass guitar, and verse 2, which is the bass guitar plus this higher part. And the only time we kind of deviate from that main part is when we go to the chorus, which is a lot more open. We switch from the kind of more palm muted, plucky one to the same rhythm and the same chords, just more open. And you can hear these guitars are intentionally a little bit out of tune because I wanted to play into that like nostalgic old school kind of sound. It blends really nicely with the rest of the production. The first verse is really simple. It's just vocals and vocal harmonies and that acoustic guitar. And the pre-chorus is where we really start adding stuff. So we introduce this kick, which is cool because instead of having a constant kick, what we did is each 2 measures repeat, and every time the kick hits, it gets a little bit quieter and then restarts every second measure. Did that make sense? It sounds like this. So big, soft, 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 and it trails off, which fits really well with the synths that you'll hear in a second. It kind of just like makes it feel like you're kind of trailing off in thought, and it's doing one of these. I don't know. It just feels wistful. Is that the word you would use? We also introduce a couple other percussion elements. We bring in this reverbed snare as well as a shaker, which is starting to kind of like create some tension, up the ante a little bit in the pre-chorus. So there's that shaker. And then if we bring that in with the kick, just feels like we're building, which we are. We're building to this chorus. And then the only other real percussion thing we have are these cymbals, which help us transition from verse 2 into the pre-chorus. They just kind of wash us out into this next section. I love cymbals. They're so fun. We bring a bass in halfway through verse 1, and the bass in the verses is a live sounding bass, and it's just following the root of those chords and doing a little walk up in certain moments. And we introduced that bass halfway through verse 1 because the transition into the pre-chorus, when we have this really low sub bass, which I'll play in a second, it felt a little too dramatic. So by teasing the bass essentially in the verse, when it comes in the pre-chorus, it's not super jarring. And we switch the sounds between the verse and the pre-chorus so we still get some distinction. The one in the pre-chorus just is like gut punch, all low end. You feel it in your chest. And you can see in verse 2, we bring back the live bass, and then for the rest of the song, we keep our low-end synth bass. Let's talk about synths now. We love synths. To contextualize kind of all we've done so far, I'm going to play the pre-chorus, which has our drums, our bass, our guitars. I just want you to hear kind of where we're living before we start adding in synths and other fun textures. So it's sounding really good, but you can tell without the synths, we don't have a lot of mid-range, high-end, sparkly stuff. It's kind of flat right now. So we need the synths to give this some more personality. Our main synth pad is doing a descending melody, which is the first element that we've talked about that kind of is giving it that longing feeling. It's kind of these long, drawn-out notes that just match really well with the lyrics, which we'll hear the vocals in 1 second. And that's layered with a one-note hit from
It's time for the moment you've been waiting for. Da, 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 da.
my favorite, Pigment's Lost Son, The Secret Sauce. And that's literally just hitting where the snare hits. And then we introduce these piano chords, which are kind of like a call and response thing with that Pigment sound. So it's Pigment, piano, Pigment, piano. With our synth. That was feeling good to me, but I wanted it to feel even more like, oh, I'm unwell, that kind of feeling. So we added in these MIDI strings, which usually I would have my friend Harley do real strings, but the MIDI strings were really working for me in this song. I liked them, so we kept them. And this is just gonna be Contact Session Strings Pro. And that's following that kind of like longing synth patch. And then in the pre-chorus, we also have this electric guitar, clean, reverby sound that's almost acting more as like a percussion element and helping build us to this chorus. So those 16th notes, and then we start bringing the synths in. So we do all of this tension building in the pre-chorus, and then the chorus, we wanted it to just feel like it was opening up like this. So we added in more strings. That's where we switch to the acoustic guitar strumming that I talked about earlier. And let me play that transition because it just feels so nice. So this counter melody string thing is really what's making it feel nice and open. Let's talk about vocals now. I'm just gonna go through verse 2 and pre-chorus 2 because it's got a lot of cool vocal moments. The first thing was getting the lead right, and 𝐤𝐮𝐬 is an amazing singer, so that was very easy. But let me play a little bit of that isolated vocal so you can hear what we're working with.
If it's true what people say and someone sweeps me off my feet.
The foundation for getting good vocals on this song was having a really strong lead where 𝐤𝐮𝐬 nailed the emotion, where she nailed and got the performance to match the lyrics. I think that is one of the most important things in getting a good vocal recording on any song, is it not being necessarily technically perfect, but having the performance match what you're saying. That is more important than anything because pitch can be fixed, performance cannot. Put that on a t-shirt. I'm not the first person to ever say that, I'm sure, but that is so important. Pitch can be fixed, performance cannot. If you don't believe it when you're singing it, no one else is going to believe it. I'll get off my soapbox. But 𝐤𝐮𝐬 nailed it. So here is the dry lead vocal.
If it's true what people say and someone sweeps me off my
And then I did some
feet.
processing on the vocal just to tighten it all up. And we added some reverb and delay just to give it some nice space. And then this is what that sounds like.
If it's true what people say and someone sweeps
Just feels really good. It feels like
off
the
my
vocal is
feet.
giving you like this hug, this warm reverby hug. That's weird to say, I think. We played around with what we wanted the background vocals to be doing, especially in this verse, because typically the move is to do accents, where we would do like a high harmony on key phrases or certain things we want to emphasize. But that just felt weird on this song. We weren't liking it. So we got a little more creative with it. And this actually ended up probably being my favorite vocal part in the song. I think it's really fun. So what we did was in these spaces between lines, I had her kind of ad-lib, and we came up with this fall thing that matched Let me just play it.
Is when I fall.
So what I had her do was in the space between this line where she says, when I fall, the background vocals do a falling melody on the word fall. And that sounds so sick. It's so cool.
When I fall, inevitably.
And we both thought that was so cool. So we wanted to keep the vibe of that going, the energy of that going, but we switched it over to like an ooh thing.
Is it better to know nothing, to marvel at mystery?
So it's still giving us that interest, but it's not as of a moment.
Know just what you're missing.
And on the second one, we introduced a higher harmony just to give it a little extra
Or
spice.
to know just what you're missing, but have it out of reach.
Those are so cool to me. I love little vocal moments like that. We also added in these O's between phrases, again, just to keep the listener engaged and it not just be the lead vocal.
What people say, and someone sweeps me off my feet.
And that's actually following our bass line walk up. So it's all coming together.
Inevitably,
that's under the fall. So cool. And then the O's again. Oops. She added a high and mid harmony in there. It sounds so cool. And then that mid harmony, she actually kept going because this is the end of the pre-chorus. And this is the first time in the second verse where we're actually getting lyrics in the background vocals. Because it's building us into this next pre-chorus section. In the pre-chorus, we lose all of those little vocal moments, and we just switch to straight lead doubles. So here are the doubles by themselves.
The love I see in movies isn't too.
They're so clean. She did a great job doubling. And these doubles are just going to continue on into this chorus right here. And if you remember, the chorus is this big opening up moment. And so we stacked the harmonies on the I wanna feel what the lovers do, which sound like this.
I wanna feel what the lovers do.
And like I said, since that chorus is opening up, building from the pre-chorus, gonna open up into this big section, we wanted the chorus to have a lot of just straight harmonies because we didn't have that in the pre-chorus.
I wanna feel what the lovers do.
And while we were doing these vocals, Tiana was so good at coming up with these little moments of vocal ear candy where it was like that fall thing from earlier or these ad-libs that I'm about to play where it just keeps you engaged as a listener when you're listening and it doesn't ever feel boring.
I wanna feel what the lovers do.
And that's doing a call and response thing with her lead, so it's filling in those spaces really nicely.
I wanna feel what the lovers do.
Altogether, that pre-chorus into the chorus sounds like this. It feels so good. It's such a good payoff going from just lead vocals and doubles to this big harmony stack. It feels so good. It feels so good.
In someone new. Yeah, I wanna feel what the lovers
It's just like a Bridgerton moment. I just wanna... What's his name? The guy that's in Bridgerton? The handsome one that's also in Wicked? What's his name? I don't know. I can't remember. He's so handsome though. Doesn't matter. Sounds good. It sounds really good. The harmonies plus the delivery of her lead with the longing strings and just the lyrics all just come together so nicely to feel so good. To feel like you're longing for the guy in Bridgerton whose name I can't remember. What's his name? Anthony? No, I think that's who he plays. Jonathan Bailey. I like him. That's how we made Lovers Do. I hope you enjoyed seeing how all the elements came together. If you liked this video, make sure you leave a comment and you tell me. And if you've watched this far, say, I love Jared because he's the best editor ever. Okay, love you, bye. Oh, I fogged up the camera.